The cell door opened from the outside. Minho, Hyejin, and Daehyun stood there, eyes wide at the sight of the open door. Then Minho smiled grimly. Told you I could hack their locks. They ran through empty corridors toward the cargo bay. The ship's alarm started wailing halfway there. Someone on the bridge had finally realized something was wrong. Red lights flashed. Automated warnings blared in Vrexian. They reached the cargo bay and stopped. The scene looked like a battlefield. Bodies on the deck. Blood everywhere. Jiwoo sitting on the catwalk with a rifle across her knees, covered in injuries and gore. She looked up at them and something in her eyes made Daehyun take a step back. Get weapons, Jiwoo said. We have maybe 5 minutes before they organize a response. Minho climbed to the weapons locker. He handed rifles down to Hyejin and Daehyun, took 2 for himself. Checked the charges, examined the firing mechanisms. Military training coming back. His hands were steady and sure. How many crew left? He asked. Maybe 8. 6 on the bridge, 2 in engineering probably. Jiwoo stood up slowly. Everything hurt. Her face was swelling. Ribs screamed with each breath. But she could move. Could fight. That was enough. Hyejin looked at the guards on the deck. One was still moving weakly. She walked over and kicked his weapon away, then secured his hands with the zip restraints the Vrexians had used on them. Not mercy, just practical thinking. Don't need to kill someone already down. We need to reach the bridge, Minho said. Control the ship from there. But they'll have sealed it by now. Reinforced doors. Could take hours to cut through. What about life support? Daehyun asked. His voice was quiet but steady. Can you shut off air to the bridge from engineering? Minho looked at the boy with new respect. Brutal. But yes, that could work. Or we force them to come to us, Jiwoo said. She pointed at the cargo bay controls. This bay has explosive decompression vents. Emergency system in case of fire. If we threaten to vent the entire cargo section, the bridge crew has to respond. They can't let millions of credits worth of stolen goods blow into space. You want to use ourselves as bait, Hyejin said. We're already bait. Might as well use it strategically. A voice crackled over the ship's intercom, speaking Vrexian, but the translator kicked in. Humans in cargo bay, you are surrounded. You cannot escape. Surrender now and deaths will be quick. Minho laughed. Actually laughed. Quick deaths. How generous. He walked to the bay's communication panel and activated it. This is Minho Choi, formerly of the Colonial Defense Force. Here are our terms. Turn this ship around and head for human space. Release us at the nearest outpost. Do this and you live. Silence. Then laughter from the bridge. You are 4. We are many. You have no chance. We have your cargo bay, Minho replied calmly. We have your captain, and we have nothing to lose. How much is that worth to you? More silence. They were thinking now, weighing options. The humans had already done the impossible by taking the cargo bay. What else might they be capable of? 10 minutes, the bridge voice said finally. We come for you in 10 minutes. You die or surrender. No other option. The intercom cut off. Minho looked at the others. 10 minutes to prepare. Jiwoo, can you still fight? She nodded. Everything hurt, but pain was just information. Could be ignored if necessary. Hyejin, you know the bay layout best. Where do we set up? Hyejin studied the space. 3 levels, multiple access points. Lots of cover, but also lots of angles to defend. Upper catwalks give us height advantage, but they can come from 4 different directions. We need to funnel them somehow. Seal 3 of the access points, Daehyun suggested. Weld them shut if we can. Force them to come through one door. Smart kid. Minho grabbed a plasma torch and got to work on the doors. The metal glowed orange, then white, then melted into slag. 3 doors sealed. Only the main entrance remained open. They positioned themselves on the 2nd-level catwalk overlooking that entrance. Jiwoo on the left with her rifle. Minho on the right with 2 rifles. Hyejin in the center with another weapon. Daehyun slightly behind them with the last rifle and a bag full of spare power cells. Remember, Minho said quietly, they expect us to be weak, to panic, to make mistakes. We do the opposite. We stay calm. We aim carefully. We make every shot count. The 10 minutes felt like hours. Jiwoo's hands had stopped shaking. The adrenaline was back, cold and focused. She checked her rifle for the 3rd time. Fully charged, safety off, targeting reticle active. Footsteps echoed in the corridor beyond the sealed door. Multiple sets. Heavy boots. The Vrexians were coming. Here's what they don't understand about humans, Minho whispered. We're not the strongest species. Not the fastest. Not the toughest. But we're the most stubborn. We're the ones who look at impossible odds and say, try me. The door exploded inward. Shaped charges. The Vrexians weren't playing around anymore. 6 of them poured through the smoking entrance, weapons raised, armor gleaming. Jiwoo fired, center mass on the lead Vrexian. The shot caught him in the chest plate, didn't penetrate but staggered him. Minho fired twice. One shot hit armor, the second caught the gap at the shoulder. The Vrexian spun and went down. The others scattered for cover. Good tactics. They'd learned from what happened to their crew in the cargo bay. But cover worked both ways. Heejin aimed for the crates where 2 Vrexians hid. Her shots punched holes in the metal, not penetrating but keeping them pinned. Daehyun handed fresh power cells to Minho as his first rifle depleted. The Vrexians returned fire. Energy bolts scorched the air. One shot hit the railing near Jiwoo's head. Sparks flew. The metal glowed hot. She didn't flinch, just adjusted her aim and fired again. Grenades! Minho shouted. The Vrexians threw 2 grenades up toward the catwalk. Jiwoo shot one out of the air. It detonated early, the blast wave hitting the Vrexians below instead. Minho grabbed the second grenade midair and threw it back down. The explosion caught 2 guards behind a crate. 4 Vrexians left. They tried to advance, but the humans held the high ground. Every time they moved, shots forced them back into cover. The cargo bay filled with smoke and the smell of burned metal. One Vrexian tried to flank. Climbed a ladder to the second level on the far side. Heijin tracked him calmly, waited until he reached the top, then fired 3 shots into his center mass. He fell backward off the ladder, 3 left. They were trapped now, pinned in the cargo bay entrance with nowhere to go. Jiwoo could see them trying to communicate with the bridge. Calling for backup, probably. We can't let them regroup, Minho said. He looked at Jiwoo. Can you cover me? What are you doing? Ending this. Before she could stop him, Minho vaulted over the railing and dropped to the deck below. He rolled, came up firing both rifles. The surprise worked. 2 Vrexians went down before they could react. The last one, bigger than the others, charged Minho directly. Raw fury. The Vrexian swung his weapon like a club. Minho ducked under it and drove his rifle's barrel into the gap under the Vrexian's jaw where the scales were soft. Pulled the trigger, silence fell. The cargo bay was clear. Minho looked up at the catwalk. 8 down. Bridge crew should be alone now, but the victory felt hollow. They'd fought their way to this point through blood and desperation. The bridge crew still controlled the ship, still had the power to vent atmosphere, to set the ship on a collision course, to do any number of things to kill them all. Then the intercom crackled. Humans. This is First Officer Takris. Captain Rexus is dead. Bridge crew wants negotiation. Minho and Jiwoo exchanged looks. Negotiation, that was new. We're listening, Minho said. You have proven dangerous. More dangerous than anticipated. Bridge crew has no wish to die like cargo bay guards. We propose exchange. You take escape pod. We keep ship and cargo. Everyone lives. Counter-proposal, Jiwoo said. She'd climbed down from the catwalk, rifle still ready. You surrender the bridge. We lock you in the holding cell where you kept us. We fly this ship to human space. You get picked up by your own people eventually. Long pause. Not acceptable. You cannot fly Vrexian ship. I can, Minho said. Colonial Defense Force. I've flown 12 different ship types, including Vrexian corsairs captured during the border conflicts. Try again, another pause. Longer this time. You really think you can take the bridge? Door is reinforced. We are armed. We've already taken everything else, Jiwoo said quietly. What makes you think the bridge is any different? The truth was in her voice. The absolute certainty. They'd done the impossible already. 4 humans against an entire pirate crew, and they were still standing. 1 hour, Takris said finally. We need 1 hour to decide. You have 30 minutes, Minho replied. Then we come for you. The intercom went dead. Jiwoo sat down heavily, suddenly exhausted. They'd won the cargo bay, but the ship was still dangerous, still enemy territory, and there was still a bridge full of Vrexians between them and freedom. But they were alive. They were armed, and they'd proven that humans, when cornered, were the most dangerous thing in the universe. 20 minutes passed. The cargo bay was quiet, except for the hum of the ship's engines and the occasional groan from injured Vrexians. Heejin had secured them all, treating their wounds just enough to keep them stable. Not mercy, just pragmatism. Dead bodies created problems. Prisoners could be exchanged. Minho worked at a computer terminal he'd pulled from the wall. His fingers moved quickly across the alien interface, navigating systems he'd last seen during military briefings years ago. Vrexian ship architecture was standard across their fleet. Predictable. That predictability might save them. Got their communications, he said. Bridge is definitely calling for help. But we're 6 days from the nearest Vrexian patrol route. Even if they scrambled a response ship immediately, we have time. How much time to reach human space? Jiwoo asked. 10 days if I push the engines. 12 safely. Minho looked up from the terminal. But we need the bridge first. Daehyun was watching the sealed bridge door through a scope. I count movement inside. At least 4, maybe 6. Hard to tell with the reinforcement. Heejin finished with the last prisoner and walked over. Can we cut through the door? Eventually, Minho said. But it would take hours. And they could vent sections, disable life support, do all kinds of damage while we're working. Jiwoo studied the terminal over Minho's shoulder. Something caught her eye. What's that? Emergency system. In case of fire or contamination, each section can be sealed and atmosphere controlled independently. So we could vent the bridge? Minho hesitated. Yes, but that's execution. They'd have maybe 2 minutes before losing consciousness. 4 before brain death. They were planning to sell us as slaves, Heejin said quietly. After beating us. After treating us like animals. I know. Minho's voice was heavy. But we're not them. If we can take them without killing, we should try. Jiwoo looked at him. And if we can't? Then we do what we have to. But let's try talking first. He activated the intercom. Takris, your 30 minutes are almost up. Last chance to surrender peacefully. The response came immediately. We have decided. You may have escape pod. This is generous offer. You live, we live. Everyone wins. You mean you get away with everything you've done, Heejin said. Keep your ship. Keep your operation. Go back to raiding and slaving like nothing happened. Is nature of universe, Takris replied. Strong take from weak. Always has been. Jiwoo took the communicator from Minho. Her voice was ice. We were weak. You were strong. How did that work out for your crew? Silence. Here's what's going to happen, Jiwoo continued. You're going to open the bridge door. You're going to put down your weapons. You're going to surrender, because if you don't, we'll come through that door anyway. And you saw what happened to everyone else who underestimated us. Big words from soft human. You got lucky in cargo bay. You will not be lucky again, Minho sighed. We tried. He started typing commands into the terminal. Jiwoo, get everyone back. This is going to be loud. What are you doing? Daehyun asked. Controlled venting. I'm going to drop the bridge atmosphere to 50%. Not enough to kill them, but enough to make them dizzy. Weak. Desperate. They'll have to open the door to get to emergency oxygen supplies in the corridor. And when they do? Heejin asked. We go in fast. Take them while they're compromised. Minho looked at each of them. Non-lethal if possible. But defend yourselves, I mean it. These aren't people we can reason with. He executed the command. Somewhere beyond the sealed door, alarms started blaring. Through the reinforced metal, they could hear shouting. Panic. 2 minutes passed. 3. The door remained sealed. The Vrexians were stubborn, proud. They'd rather suffocate than surrender to humans. Then the door cracked open. Just an inch. Just enough. Minho raised his hand, waited. The door opened wider. A Vrexian stumbled out, gasping, reaching for the emergency oxygen station on the wall. Now. They moved as one. Minho went through first, rifle ready. Jiwoo followed left. Heejin right. Daehyun stayed at the door, covering their exit. The bridge was chaos. 5 Vrexians, oxygen deprived and disoriented. Takris was at the captain's chair, trying to activate something on the console. Minho fired, catching him in the shoulder. The first officer spun and fell. 2 guards by the navigation station turned with weapons raised. Jiwoo was faster. 2 shots, both knees. They went down screaming. Another guard charged Heejin. She sidestepped and drove her rifle stock into the back of his head. The Vrexian crashed into a console and didn't get up. The last guard, younger than the others, dropped his weapon immediately. Hands raised, surrendering. Smart choice, Minho said. He kept his rifle trained on the guard while Heejin secured the others. The bridge fell quiet. Jiwoo walked to the captain's chair where Takris clutched his wounded shoulder. She looked down at him without expression. You said strong take from weak. You said it's the nature of the universe. Takris glared at her through pain and hatred. You prove me right. You are strong. You take? No. Jiwoo shook her head. We're not strong. We're desperate. There's a difference. Strong is what you were, confident, in control, certain of your superiority. We were never any of those things. We were scared people fighting for our lives. You mistook fear for weakness. That was your mistake. She turned to Minho. Bridge is secure. Minho sat at the pilot station and started bringing up systems. His hands moved across the controls like he'd been flying Vrexian ships his whole life. Maybe that military training was more extensive than he'd mentioned. Navigation coming online. Life support stable. Weapons disabled. Communications disabled. Engineering under control. He looked back at the others. We have the ship. The words hung in the air. They had the ship. Against all odds, against impossible chances, 4 human prisoners had taken a Vrexian pirate vessel from its own crew. It seemed unreal. Impossible, but they'd done it. Hyejin locked the captured Vrexians in the same holding cell where they'd been kept. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. She set up automated food and water delivery. They wouldn't be comfortable, but they'd survive until they could be turned over to proper authorities. Daehyun helped Minho plot a course to human space. The boy had a gift for navigation, apparently. He understood orbital mechanics intuitively, could calculate transfer windows in his head. Jiwoo sat in the captain's chair and tried to process everything. Her face was a mess of bruises and cuts. Her ribs hurt with every breath. But she was alive. They all were. The bridge intercom activated. Minho's voice. Course plotted. We'll reach the colonial outpost at Hadley's Hope in 9 days if we push the engines. Everyone okay? Define okay, Hyejin said. She was treating Jiwoo's injuries with supplies from the ship's medical bay. Alive counts as okay right now. Jiwoo looked at the view screen showing stars streaking past. They were heading home. Actually heading home. It seemed impossible, Minho, she said quietly, in the cargo bay. When you jumped down, that was insane. Yeah. His voice was tired. But it worked. This time. Don't do it again. Can't promise that. Hyejin finished bandaging Jiwoo's ribs. You need rest, real rest. We all do, she was right. The adrenaline was wearing off now. Exhaustion was setting in. Jiwoo could barely keep her eyes open. But she forced herself to stay awake for one more task. She activated the ship's communication array and sent a tight beam message toward human space. Not a distress call. A warning. This is Jiwoo Park of Terminus 7th. Captured by Vrexian pirates. Ship now under human control. En route to Hadley's Hope. Warning all human vessels. Vrexians are operating slave raids in the outer colonies. They think we're easy targets. They're wrong. Prove it. She sent the message and then allowed herself to sleep. It was a hard sleep, dreamless and deep. The sleep of someone who'd survived the impossible and lived to tell about it. When she woke 12 hours later, Minho had the ship running smoothly. Daehyun was learning navigation from the computer banks. Hyejin was cataloging the cargo they'd inadvertently stolen along with the ship. We're going to have some explaining to do when we reach Hadley's Hope, Hyejin said, showing up in a stolen pirate ship with the original crew locked in the hold. Let them try to arrest us, Minho said. We'll tell them exactly what happened. Let them argue with survival. Jiwoo walked to the view screen. Space looked different now, less infinite and hostile, more like something humans belonged in, something they'd earned the right to travel. They laughed, she said quietly. When I told them not to hit me again, they thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. They're not laughing now, Hyejin said. No, they're not. The ship flew on through dark space, carrying 4 humans in a cargo hold full of prisoners, carrying proof that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't strength or technology or numbers. It was the absolute refusal to quit. The stubborn insistence on survival even when survival seemed impossible. The Vrexians had learned that lesson. The hard way. The galaxy would learn it too in time. Humans were coming. And they didn't need to be the strongest species. They just needed to be the most determined. Morning came with the sound of boots on metal. More guards than usual. Something was different. Jiwoo felt her stomach tighten. They'd planned for tonight, after the evening guard change when Tharks would be late and drowsy from his shift rotation. The door opened. Raxus stood there with 6 guards behind him. His expression was ugly, a mix of anticipation and cruelty that Jiwoo recognized immediately. This wasn't a routine check. You. He pointed at Jiwoo. Come. She stood slowly. Minho started to move, but Raxus's guards raised their weapons. Not worth it, not yet. Jiwoo walked forward, keeping her breathing steady. Whatever was coming, she'd endure it. Just a few more hours until their plan could activate. They took her to the cargo bay. The space was massive, 3 levels like Hyejin described. Crates stacked everywhere, catwalks overhead, and in the center an open area where the guards gathered to watch. This was a show. Entertainment before they reached the slave markets. Break the human, make her obedient, increase her value as a compliant worker. Raxus liked his work. He was good at it. He'd done this hundreds of times before. He circled Jiwoo slowly. She stood still, head down, appearing submissive. Inside, her mind worked rapidly, counting guards, mapping exits, calculating distances. On the second-level catwalk, she spotted it. A plasma torch used for repairs sitting on a tool rack, maybe 15 feet away. Might as well be a mile. Raxus hit her without warning. His fist caught her across the jaw. The world spun. Jiwoo tasted blood immediately. She staggered but didn't fall. Couldn't show weakness, no. Couldn't show strength either. Had to be invisible, unremarkable, not worth attention. You know what you are? Raxus asked. Nothing. Less than nothing. You exist because I allow it. You breathe because I permit it. He hit her again. This time her cheekbone. Something cracked. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. Jiwoo's knees buckled, but she caught herself. Blood ran from her nose and mouth. The guards laughed and cheered. She tough, one guard said in broken standard. Maybe last long at markets. Bring good price, Raxus smiled. One more. Break her spirit properly. He raised his hand. Jiwoo looked up at him through blood and swelling. Her voice was barely a whisper. Don't hit me again. The cargo bay erupted. Laughter so loud it echoed off the metal walls. The guards doubled over. Some actually fell to their knees, they were laughing so hard. The idea that this broken, bleeding human could threaten their captain was the most absurd thing they'd ever heard. Raxus laughed hardest of all. Or what, little human? What will you do? Jiwoo said nothing. She watched his hand rise, watched his arm cock back, watched his weight shift forward. In that moment, everything became clear and simple. Survival wasn't about being stronger. It was about being faster, smarter, more willing to do what was necessary. Her restraints weren't actually locked. The guards had gotten lazy, confident in their superiority. Why bother with tight restraints when the prisoner couldn't possibly pose a threat? Jiwoo's hand slipped free as Raxus began his swing. The plasma torch was 15 feet away on the second level, impossible to reach. But there was a lifting crate 3 feet to her left and a scaffold pole leaning against it. Not impossible, just improbable. She moved. Jiwoo grabbed the pole with both hands and swung it hard into Raxus's extended arm. Not strong enough to break it, but enough to deflect the strike. Enough to buy 2 seconds. She used them to leap onto the crate and from there to the scaffold ladder. The guards were still processing what happened, still stuck between laughter and confusion. Humans didn't fight back. Humans were prey. This wasn't in their experience, wasn't in their understanding of how the universe worked. Jiwoo climbed faster than they could react. Reached the second level. Grabbed the plasma torch. Activated it with shaking hands. The cutting beam blazed to life, white-hot and deadly. Raxus roared. The laughter stopped. He charged up the ladder after her, massive and furious. This was his ship. His prey. His property. No human would humiliate him. Jiwoo waited until he was close. Until his clawed hand reached for her throat. Then she swung the torch across his extended arm just below the elbow. The plasma beam cut through scale, muscle, and bone like they were paper. Raxus's arm fell to the deck below. The screaming started, but not from Jiwoo. The other guards rushed the ladder, 5 of them all coming at once. Jiwoo backed along the catwalk. Her mind was ice cold now. No fear, no hesitation. Just calculation. Just survival. The first guard reached the catwalk and charged. Jiwoo sidestepped at the last possible moment and swung the scaffold pole into his knee joint. The Vrexian's own momentum carried him forward. His leg buckled wrong. He went over the railing screaming. The second guard was smarter. He approached carefully, weapon raised. But careful meant slow. Jiwoo threw the scaffold pole like a spear. It hit his weapon arm. Not hard enough to do real damage, but enough to make him flinch. In that flinch, she closed the distance and pressed the plasma torch against the back of his neck, where the scales were thinner. His nervous system shut down instantly. He collapsed, 3 left. They split up now, learning. 1 on each side of the catwalk, 1 climbing a different ladder to cut off her escape. Pack tactics, effective against normal prey. But Jiwoo wasn't running, she jumped, not down. Down was death. She jumped across to the other catwalk, a gap of maybe 8 feet. Impossible for the heavy Vrexians in their armor. Easy for a human who weighed 1/3 of what they did. She landed hard, rolled, came up running. The weapons locker was close now. She could see it. Just had to reach it before they reorganized. A guard appeared ahead of her, the one called Vexus who liked his reflection. He swung his shock baton at her head. Jiwoo ducked under it and drove the plasma torch into his knee joint where the armor plates met. He went down screaming. The weapons locker. She reached it. Punched in the code Minho had found. 8 digits. The door hissed open. Inside, rifles, pistols, ammunition, grenades, an armory. Jiwoo grabbed the smallest rifle she could find and checked the charge. Full. She turned just as the last 2 guards reached the catwalk. They stopped. Looked at the human holding a weapon. Looked at their captain on the deck below, holding the stump of his arm. Looked at their companions scattered and broken. Down, Jiwoo said quietly. Put your weapons down and get on your knees. They didn't move. Still couldn't process it. Still couldn't accept that prey had become predator. Jiwoo fired once. The shot took the left guard in the shoulder, spinning him around. He hit the railing and toppled over. The right guard dropped his weapon immediately and fell to his knees. Smart, Jiwoo said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Calm, flat, like someone else was speaking. The cargo bay was quiet except for moaning. 6 guards down, Raxus bleeding out on the deck, and Jiwoo standing on the catwalk with a rifle covered in blood, most of it not her own. 20 minutes. That's all it had taken. 20 minutes from the first laugh to the last guard falling. 20 minutes to prove that strength meant nothing against speed and desperation, and millions of years of human evolution. She activated her communicator, the one the Vrexians hadn't bothered to take because what could a prisoner possibly communicate? Minho Hyejin Daehyun. Her voice was steady. I'm in the cargo bay. We have weapons. Come now. Then she sat down on the catwalk and waited. Her hands were shaking now. Adrenaline crash. She'd been running on pure survival instinct. Now her body wanted to shut down, but she couldn't, not yet. This was just the beginning. The ship moved through dark space toward the slave markets. 3 more days, the guard said. 3 more days until the humans would be sold and scattered across the galaxy. 3 more days to do something or accept their fate. Jiwoo spent every waking moment watching. The Vrexians rotated guards every 6 hours. The one called Tharks always arrived 17 minutes late to his shift. The one called Vexus liked to look at himself in the polished metal walls. The one called Cross checked the door lock 3 times before leaving, paranoid despite their obvious superiority. Patterns. Everything had patterns. Humans were good at finding patterns. Evolution had made them experts at it. Track the prey, follow the signs, understand the behavior, then strike when the moment was right. Minho worked on the maintenance panel during guard changes. His hands moved quickly. Trained by years of engineering work, he'd gotten the panel completely off now. Inside a maze of wiring and pipes, ship systems, access points, possibilities. Environmental controls here, he whispered, pointing. Power distribution there. And this, he touched a thick cable, connects to the cargo bay systems. Hyejin leaned closer. Can you use any of it? Maybe. Need to understand their system architecture first. It's not human design. Minho pulled out a thin wire, examined it. But engineering follows logic. Logic I can work with. Daehyun watched from the corner. The boy had barely spoken since they were captured. Too young for this. Too innocent. But his eyes had changed over the past days. The softness was hardening into something else. Survival instinct maybe, or hatred. Both had their uses. The guards came again at midday. This time they wanted entertainment. They dragged Hyejin out by her hair. She didn't struggle. Struggling only made it last longer. Jiwoo had figured that out the first day. They brought her back after 20 minutes. New bruises. Split knuckles from where she'd fallen. But conscious. Still whole. Still fighting in her own quiet way. They're sloppy, Hyejin said once the guards left. Strong but sloppy. They don't expect anyone to fight back, so they don't guard themselves properly. Jiwoo nodded. She'd noticed the same thing. Vrexians relied on intimidation and raw power. Why develop technique when you outweighed your opponent by 100 pounds of muscle and scale? But that was their weakness. Power without precision, strength without strategy. They'd never needed to evolve past it because nothing in their natural environment had challenged them enough. Humans were different. Humans evolved on a world where bigger, stronger predators existed everywhere. Humans learned to be clever, to use tools, to wait and plan and strike at vulnerable points because going head-to-head meant death. Tell me what you saw, Jiwoo said to Hyejin. Cargo bay, 3 levels. Weapons locker on the 2nd level, left side. The code panel flashed when they opened it. 4 digits. Started with 9 guards. 2 in the bay, 4 more on the bridge above it, maybe more elsewhere on the ship. Hyejin closed her eyes, remembering. The bay has a maintenance scaffold, catwalks, storage crates stacked along the walls. Could use those for cover. Minho listened carefully. How many total crew? I saw maybe 15 different Vrexians since we were captured. Could be more in engineering or crew quarters. 15 against 4. Terrible odds under normal circumstances. But circumstances weren't normal. The Vrexians didn't know they were planning anything. They thought their captives were broken, defeated, waiting passively for whatever came next. That night, Raxus visited again. He brought a bottle of something that smelled toxic and 2 of his officers. They'd been drinking. Drunk Vrexians were meaner than sober ones. He grabbed Jiwoo's arm and pulled her up. His breath was worse than usual, hot and reeking. He said something in his own language that made his officers laugh. The translator didn't pick it up. Probably didn't need to. The meaning was clear enough. Captain wants to know how much pain human can take, one officer said. We make bets. They took turns hitting her. Nothing that would leave permanent damage. Nothing that would lower her market value. Just enough to hurt. Enough to remind her that she was nothing, that they were everything. Jiwoo endured. Every hit was information. The first officer favored his right hand. The second had a slight delay in his reflexes, probably an old injury. Raxus himself was drunk enough that his coordination was off by maybe half a second. Half a second. That could be enough when the time came. They threw her back after they got bored. Minho helped her sit up. Blood ran from her nose. Her ribs screamed, but nothing broken. Nothing that wouldn't heal. Soon, she whispered. Has to be soon. Minho understood. Give me tomorrow. 1 more day. I can get into their security system through the maintenance shaft. Unlock doors. Maybe disable some of their weapons remotely. 1 more day, Jiwoo agreed. Hyejin spoke up from her corner. What about after? Even if we take the ship, where do we go? Nearest human outpost is 2 weeks away at normal speed, Minho said. But this ship can probably make it in 10 days if we push the engines. I can navigate if I can access their star charts. Big ifs, Hyejin said. Better than the alternative. Minho looked at each of them. I was Colonial Defense Force for 6 years. Saw combat on 3 worlds. I know how to fight. I know how to kill when I need to. But I can't do this alone. Jiwoo met his eyes. You won't be alone. Daehyun spoke for the first time in days. His voice was quiet but steady. I'll help. Whatever you need, Hyejin nodded. Count me in. The next day, the Vrexians continued their routine. They didn't see 4 humans quietly preparing. Didn't see Minho working behind the wall panel, carefully tapping into their computer systems. Didn't see Jiwoo memorizing every detail she could observe through the door. Didn't see Hyejin testing her strength, seeing what her bruised body could still do. Didn't see Daehyun watching them with new eyes, studying how they moved, where they were vulnerable. The Vrexians saw what they expected to see. Broken slaves, defeated prey, merchandise. They were blind to everything else. That evening, Minho pulled his hand back from the maintenance shaft. His fingers were bleeding from stripped wires, but he was smiling. I'm in their system. Not deep access, but enough. I can unlock any door on the ship. Can disable their internal security cameras for about 30 seconds at a time. And, he paused, smile widening, I found the weapons locker code, full 8 digits. Jiwoo felt something cold settle into her chest. Not fear, not quite anticipation, something else. The feeling a hunter gets when the prey finally moves into range. When? Hyejin asked. Tomorrow. They reached the station the day after. It's tomorrow or never. Jiwoo looked at her hands. Small hands. soft compared to Vrexian claws. Humans didn't have natural weapons. No fangs, no claws, no armor plating. Just soft skin and fragile bones. But humans had something else. They had patience. They had the ability to plan, and they had millions of years of evolution teaching them exactly how to kill things bigger and stronger than themselves. "Tomorrow then," she said. The morning sky over Terminus 7 burned orange when the ships appeared. Jiwoo Park was cataloging soil samples in the lab when the first explosion shook the building. Her coffee spilled across the datapad, but she barely noticed. Years of training kicked in immediately. She grabbed her emergency pack and ran toward the shelter. She never made it. The raiders came through the east wall like it was paper. 3 massive figures in dark armor, each one nearly 8 feet tall. Reptilian faces with cold yellow eyes. Vrexians. Jiwoo had seen them in diplomatic footage, but never in person. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never known fear. One of them grabbed her by the arm. His grip was like iron, claws digging through her sleeve into skin. Jiwoo gasped but didn't scream. Screaming wouldn't help. The Vrexian lifted her off her feet as easily as she might lift a child's toy. His breath smelled like sulfur and rotting meat. Outside, the settlement burned. Smoke rose from every building. Bodies lay in the streets. Jiwoo's stomach twisted. She forced herself to look away, to focus on surviving the next minute, then the next hour. Panic was a luxury she couldn't afford. They threw her into a transport ship with 3 other humans. A man in his 30s with engineer patches on his jacket. A woman with dirt under her nails from working in the gardens. A teenage boy with terror in his eyes. None of them spoke. What was there to say? The ship lurched into space. Through a small window, Jiwoo watched Terminus 7 shrink away. The settlement was still burning. She wondered if anyone survived. Probably not. Vrexian pirates didn't leave witnesses. The man with engineer patches moved closer. His name was Minho Choi, he whispered. Former military, now civilian. The woman was Hyejin Lim, hydroponics specialist. The boy was Daehyun Song, just 17, traveling to meet his parents on another colony. They'd been in the same place at the wrong time. The Vrexians returned after an hour. Their leader was bigger than the others, with deep scars across his face and a metal implant over one eye. He studied them like insects in a jar. When he spoke, a translator on his collar rendered his hissing words into flat, emotionless English. Humans, soft, weak. You will bring good price at market. He reached out and grabbed Jiwoo's face, turning her head side to side. His claws pressed into her cheeks. She could feel blood starting to well up where they punctured skin. The Vrexian leader, Raxus, smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Very soft, he said. Break easy. He released her with a shove that sent her sprawling. The other Vrexians laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Jiwoo pushed herself up slowly. Her cheeks burned where his claws had pierced. She could taste blood. Don't touch me again, she said quietly. The laughter got louder. Raxus bent down until his face was level with hers. His yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. Or what, little human? You threaten me? Jiwoo said nothing. There was nothing to say that wouldn't make things worse. But she filed away the interaction in her mind. His arrogance, his assumption of superiority, the way he moved, the way he stood, the way his species seemed to rely entirely on physical strength. The Vrexians left them alone after that, though guards checked on them every few hours. The holding cell was small, metal walls on all sides except for a reinforced door. A single drain in the corner served as a toilet. No beds, no blankets. They were cargo, not passengers. Jiwoo spent the time observing. Every time a guard opened the door, she memorized what she could see of the ship beyond. Corridor layout. Light patterns. The sound of boots on metal. She counted seconds between guard checks. Noted which guard seemed more alert, which one seemed bored. Minho noticed what she was doing. He caught her eye and gave a slight nod. He understood. Hyejin watched them both but said nothing. Daehyun sat in the corner, knees pulled to his chest, trying not to cry. On the second day, Raxus returned. This time he brought shock batons. He wanted to demonstrate to the crew what happened when humans resisted. He chose Minho. The engineer didn't fight back as 2 guards held him. When the baton touched his ribs, electricity coursed through his body. Minho's jaw clenched, muscles rigid, but he didn't scream. The Vrexians seemed disappointed. They hit him again. Still nothing. Jiwoo watched. She saw where the baton made contact, saw how the Vrexians held it where their fingers gripped. She saw the power cell on the side and estimated its capacity. Everything was data. Everything could be useful later. They threw Minho back into the cell. He was conscious but barely. Jiwoo helped him sit up, checked his pulse. Racing but steady. Burns on his ribs and arms. He'd survive. Why didn't you scream? Hyejin whispered. Minho's voice was hoarse. Give them nothing. Show them nothing. The third day was worse. Raxus decided they needed to be trained for the slave markets. That meant beatings. Systematic, calculated beatings designed to break their will without damaging the merchandise too badly. Jiwoo took her turn. Raxus hit her across the face with the back of his hand. Stars exploded behind her eyes. The taste of copper filled her mouth. He hit her again. Her cheekbone felt like it cracked. You learn your place, human. You are nothing. Less than nothing. Jiwoo spat blood at his feet. Don't hit me again. The bridge erupted. Every Vrexian watching doubled over with laughter. The idea that this small, bleeding human could threaten them was the funniest thing they'd heard in years. Raxus laughed so hard his translators struggled to keep up. Or what? He wheezed. You stop me? You kill me. More laughter. Jiwoo said nothing more. She let them drag her back to the cell. Let them think she was broken, helpless, defeated. But behind her swollen eyes her mind was working. Cataloging, planning, waiting. That night, Hyejin showed them what she'd been working on. A panel in the wall, loosened over days of patient effort. Behind it, access to a maintenance shaft. Not enough to escape, but enough to reach other parts of the ship. Minho checked it and nodded. Give me 2 more days. I can work with this. Jiwoo touched her split lip gently. 2 more days of enduring. 2 more days of appearing weak while gathering strength. She could do that. The Vrexians thought they'd won. They had no idea the countdown had already started.